headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
I'm going to say this through gritted teeth because everybody knows what I think about the British bloated company. Why is this has been written for me. I'm going to do this as sarcastically as I want. Why is the licence fee outdated? Doesn't it still provide great value and sets a great standard of broadcasting for the rest of the world to envy?
Well, I think it was a good idea when it was first set up, when the BBC was quite literally the only show in town back in the 1940s. But there's so much more competition these days, not only in terrestrial television, but also you've got subscription and streaming platforms as well. And so I just don't think it's fair anymore for taxpayers to be forced to fund the BBC when they may not even want to view that content at all. They may want to go and watch ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, a range of other broadcasters.
talkTV, Talk Radio TV, whatever, that's fine,
talkTV as well.
Darwin, I'll tell you why I agree with you, and a lot of people will say, oh, you used to be on ITV for 15 years. I'll tell you why I agree with you. I believe that terrestrial television is on the way out anyway. I believe in the next 5 years it will be choice and you'll have to subscribe or pay or whatever. There is the feeling in the business that the BBC is has this divine right to take your money and put on what it wants. And unfortunately, factually, where the BBC falls down is it's taken such a politically correct view on so many things that it turns people away. We're talking specifically, though, about people refusing to pay their licence fee. Do you believe, and I'll bring David Coburn in just a tick if that's right, but do you believe it's good to advocate people breaking the law? Because that, whether we think it's unfair or not, that is in essence what you're talking about.
Of course, I wouldn't advocate anyone breaking the law, but I think the figures are quite astounding that we found. I mean, over the last 5 years, almost 124,000 people per year have been prosecuted for non-licence fee payments. And so the Charter's got another 6 years to go before it comes to a close in 2027. And so that could be, as you mentioned earlier, almost 750,000 people being prosecuted for this. And this comes at a time when BBC bosses were in front of a parliamentary committee this week saying that they expect prosecutions to return to pre-pandemic levels, and that's despite them saying that there's strong support for the licence fee. Well, quite frankly, I think the reverse is true. Licence fee payers are actually fed up of having to pay this. Polling consistently shows that the licence fee is incredibly unpopular. And so I think while, of course, I wouldn't advocate anyone breaking the law, I do think that now is the right time for ministers to take action, axe the TV tax, and they're not paying for the licence fee post-2027.
What I was going to say, Darwin, is we've got a champion of the cause, of course, Nadine Dorries. Let's just move to David Coburn, a retired pharmaceutical exec. David, you've decided not to pay your licence fee. You're right. What would you say to people who think surely pensioners, even if it's difficult, they should pay their fee if they use the service? What's your answer to that, David?
Well, my answer is I don't use the service. We found, my wife and I, over the years we didn't watch much telly. And when we did, we found we weren't watching the BBC because we got irritated by their propaganda. And so we thought, well, when they changed the rules and we made it that pensioners had to pay, we thought, well, we won't do that. And so now we just don't watch any telly.
You don't watch any television at all?
No. And we don't even cheat by watching iPlayer.
In terms of, so are you for your principles denying yourself pleasure? But more importantly, are you not scared by the threat of prosecution?
Well, I won't be. As far as I can see, I won't be prosecuted for not watching it. If I don't watch it,
you'll be prosecuted for not paying your licence fee, right?
I thought you only had to pay the licence fee if you watch telly.
How do you prove that? Darwin, help us out. How does somebody gets a knock on the door and he's prosecuted and he says, well, I haven't watched it. It's rubbish. It's propaganda, left-wing woke rubbish. I'm not watching it. How do you get away with it? What's wrong with Darwin? He's speaking and I can't hear anything. Hello? Darwin?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Oh, yes, there we go.
There we go. So, so what happens with the licence fee is, as David is quite right, if he's not watching any television, then he can't be prosecuted. Part of the bizarrity is even if you're not watching BBC content, if you're watching any content on television, on terrestrial television, you have to fund the BBC for it. So, but they can still, in theory, knock on your door and ask you to prove that you're not watching any television. Now, one of the easiest ways of doing that is obviously not having a television at all. But it can be quite difficult for those even who aren't watching television to actually prove that they're not doing so in the first place.
Do you believe, as I believe, Darwin, that the whole landscape of television will change, is changing? Nadine Dorries has certainly frozen the licence fee for the next 2 years. I don't know whether Boris Johnson stays or not. Let's avoid that. But I think they have to be, just final question, surely the BBC has to be more accountable in the future, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and that's something that we call for at the Taxpayers Alliance all the time. And I think, as you mentioned, the TV and media market as a whole is going to transform even further in years to come. And at the Taxpayers Alliance, we understand that and have actually called for the TV licence fee to be abolished and for the parts of the BBC to actually be sold off and for it to turn into a subscription service.
The reason I agree with you, and I'm just going to stick my neck on the line, I don't care if I upset people, the reason you're absolutely spot on is that all the commercial radio stations, television networks, you get watched. If you put out good programming, then you sell adverts and that pays for you to survive. You don't survive on running any old rubbish and getting £157 off people just for the sake of it. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Interesting that. Licence fee prosecution set to double. Thank you to Darwin Friend and David Coburn. He's not paying his licence. What are you thinking? 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Let's go to Southend. Dave, you're on Talk Breakfast. What do you want to say, pal?
Hi, Mr. Carl. I think we need to take a step back here at the moment, saying let's forgive Boris if he gives us this and he gives us that. Remember, over the last 2 years, politicians have all had their £6,000 a month pay put into their bank accounts, and they haven't suffered at all. Remember what this man and the cabinet, but this man is the man who's in charge, has inflicted pain and suffering financially, mentally and physically on the people of this country. I'll just say to people that if you want to forgive him, if he wants to give you a couple little pennies here and a penny there, remember what he has done to people of this country and what he has done financially to this country. He is only doing what he's doing because he's been caught out.
Now, listen, I
believe he would have locked us down again.
Dave, listen. I think he didn't lock us down at Christmas because 101 Tory MPs rebelled. I think his brain's now in gear because he's protecting his own backside. If that's for people who want that, right, if they get back the man or the government they voted for, people will make a decision. I would only say this, and I don't care if it upsets people. Yes, he lies. Yes, he blusters. I don't still to this day understand rhubarb as a sentence yesterday. That doesn't make any sense to me. But the people that listen and watch this station will tell you that the thought of the alternative is totally frightening. David Southend, thank you very much indeed. Can we just do a couple of texts? Mike, no. Why did I say Mike? He's called Bob. Where does that come from? Losing my brain. Brendan spoke total and utter sense. This was an open goal with so many free shots for Starmer. He didn't even line up his shots. Boris will weather this onslaught of vicious attacks by political opportunists. He ain't going nowhere. Great show, by the way. Thank you, Bob. Sam Carr says, if we all stop paying simultaneously in support of those being prosecuted, they will be impotent to go after everyone. Let's start a campaign. That's presumably about the TV licence thing. Thank you very much indeed. The headlong rush, says Martin in mid-Norfolk. Where's mid-Norfolk? The middle of it, anyway, where Norfolk is. The headlong rush to net zero is wrecking the economy and re-emerging businesses. We need to become energy self-sufficient long before we drop all fossil fuel-generated power. This is the major cause of inflation. Rob's in Woodford Green. I'm not reading that. And also, who's this? It's time the police investigated harassment allegations against the BBC. People receive threatening letters and door-to-door calls from them continually. I hope we get to a point where, don't get me on Gary Lineker, where the BBC has to justify what it puts out. If you watch the BBC, which you shouldn't do, obviously, you should come with a health warning, I'm just being honest. If you watch the BBC, so much of it is politically motivated. I always thought that the BBC was supposed to be politically straight down the line, but they're not. That's one issue. The other issue is, as I said, if they expect you to pay 157 quid to watch them, you should have some involvement, some, I don't know, appreciation, understanding or involvement of what goes out. You don't. You're told what to think, what to watch and when to watch it, and that's why people are rebelling. 0344 499 1000.
Good talk.
Hot talk. Bold talk. Talk radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.